We have a live for you today that you are not going to want to miss. We are changing miserable women into happy wives. So, my good friend LB from the Wife Club is going to be joining me shortly. And what we're going to be doing is giving you a gold mine of strategies that'll help you move the needle on your marriage. So, I'm just going to let her in now. So, what we're going to do is help you women, anyone who's feeling like you're tired of the repetitive arguments, you're tired of the conflict and tension within your marriage, you're tired of feeling maybe unappreciated. So, what we're going to do is we are going to get you these incredible strategies. That's our goal today, to get you to this beautiful place where you can begin to start to feel happy. So, LB is just about to join us here. Excellent. So, LB, you're just going to love her. If you haven't met her already, she has this premium wife coach business, and it's an incredible program. So, LB is a total expert in all things helping miserable wives become happy wives. Hey, LB, how are you?
Happy Lifestyle Wednesday, Beth.
Of course, I can't believe I forgot to mention that right off the hop. Yes, it's Lifestyle Wednesday, and it's so great to be joining you today. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Excited about today's girl chat. I see the ladies are joining. We're about to have a meeting in the ladies' room. Y'all come on in.
Yeah, come on in. Any questions for LB and I, just pop them in the chat here and we'll comment on them as soon as we can. So
Okay.
LB, let's get into this. We are going to be talking about our best strategies to get women who are feeling very miserable into
Yeah.
happy wives. Where should we start? What is one of your strategies that you'd love to share with me today?
Well, first, for those who may not be familiar with me, I am Lakia Brandenburg, better known as LB. I am the wife coach. And as Beth been telling y'all, I help miserable married women become happy, fun, and irresistible wives. I've been married, Beth, for 12 years, but although I've been married to my boo, my baby daddy, Derek, I haven't always been a wife. Like, I think that we have to make that clear. There is a difference between being married and being a wife, because all married women aren't wives. So when we think about the word misery, let's start by defining that. Where are you miserable in your marriage? It could be what? Communication? Come on, Beth. What do we see all the time? It could be sex, the
Oh, the
lack
ones
of.
that, and I see a lot of mistrust, tons of mistrust,
Ooh,
even though your partner may or may not be
yeah.
cheating or infidelity, just them being on their phone and heading off to the bathroom or wherever they're going with their phone. It feels sneaky and it gets them like spiraling in
Yeah.
obsessive thoughts.
Absolutely. So I call those the misses. So you have Mrs. Resentful, you have Mrs. Non-trustworthy, Mrs. Whatever, and those are the married women that make you miserable. So we got to think about Mrs. Controlling. That could be a part of Mrs. Controlling too, wanting to know like what's going on, because that trust hasn't been extended to their spouse or their partner. So it's really dealing with the person, the individual, asking yourself, who am I showing up as? And why am I showing up as the married woman versus the wife? So that's one of the first ways we can start with really understanding why you are in the place that you're in right now in your relationship.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It has to start with you, the woman who wants to be in a marriage that's happy. You have to do
Yeah.
that soul search first and figure out, what are you feeling right now? I always start with awareness. Like, are you angry? Are you sad? Are you mad? Are
Yes.
you irritated? Are you frustrated? We always start with an emotion, because
Oh,
that
people.
emotion is driven from some sort of thought. It's coming from a thought being like, I'm unappreciated. You're cheating on me. I hate you.
Yes.
Why did I ever get married? And then that drives an emotion. So what are your thoughts on that?
No, absolutely. And like you said, I think being able to understand and being emotionally aware. A lot of times we think it's anger. I'm just mad. I'm upset. But we don't understand that it's deeper. And a lot of times it has nothing to do with our spouse. They just triggered that emotion that's always been there. And so what I like to do with my ladies is ask them this one question: how did you get here? So when you ask that question, depending on what season you're in your relationship, it's going to have a different answer. Because you know when things are good, Beth, come on now. When things are good, you're like, oh, I love him. How did we get here? We're just, vibing. The sex is great. The communication is on point. And then when the season turns and it's like, well, how did we get here? He keep leaving his socks on the floor. His feet stink. He make me sick. He get on my nerves. So you got to ask yourself, how did we get here? Because there's steps that you're taking or not taking to get you to the place that you're at. And if you find yourself being triggered by certain things, let's use the phone. Ask yourself, is this something that happened in my past? Have I been dealing with, issues with not trusting people since I was younger? Maybe my father or my mother wasn't in my life. It really stems from something much deeper. And that's why it's important to understand who you are and why you're showing up the way you are. Because if you don't know, then you're just going to look at it as he's not paying attention to me, or he's cheating. Somebody else is getting his attention, when it could be something much deeper.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. So here's how I look at it. It's those things that happen in, say, childhood or in past relationships. What they do is if you haven't resolved them, work through those emotions, those feelings, those
Yep.
beliefs that you have within that relationship, being like, you know what, he doesn't really like me, or I keep bringing up the cheating, he cheated on me. If
Yeah.
you can't regain that trust and trust things in your life, what happens is those feelings, those things of maybe having to be a people pleaser in your past, then show up in your current relationship. I always say our past wreaks havoc on our future if we haven't
Yes.
been able to deal with it. So that's what's so crazy about this process, is it's not just like, let me talk to my husband and use my I feel like this, honey. Those I feel statements are great, but they don't have a place. They're just like a band-aid. They're covering
Yeah.
up what's underneath, which is so often these
Absolutely.
like little mini major traumas from our past.
Yeah.
So it's so, yeah, it's magical. You get to be a detective, right? You get to be a
Yeah.
detective into why do I feel this way?
Well, that's the thing. And you're becoming. See, this whole process of life, even in marriage, it's about becoming. And so one thing I would tell my ladies is you don't want your pain to push your partner away. I think they need to hear that again. You don't want your pain, whether it's trauma, unresolved issues, hurt, pain, unforgiveness. You don't want that to push your partner away. So you may not realize that by you being Mrs. Nagging, because that comes up from trauma, right? Not getting what you want, having to repeat yourself, Mrs. Controlling, Mrs. Know-it-all. Those are examples of pain that hasn't been resolved. And that's the misery that shows up in your relationship. So if you really don't get to the bottom of, why am I so controlling? Like I had to ask myself that, Beth, why is Mrs. Controlling showing up here? What do I want to control? You know why? Because I really didn't trust that my husband could lead me the way I think I need to be led. You see what I'm saying? So then
Absolutely.
why is
Oh, I
that? Well,
definitely do.
you see that? So now then I go back to my household where my father wasn't the best example of leadership. So then he's representing men. He's representing what I think leadership is supposed to look like, but he's falling short. So now I have control issues because I'm taught that I need to be independent. Mrs. Independent shows up in my marriage. Now we got this power struggle because we don't know who's supposed to be in control. You know what I mean? So it causes havoc. It causes misery. And your relationship is just, you're just Mr. and Mrs. Married. That's what I call it. The boring old couple that's just trying to make it day to day. And that's not what this thing called marriage is about.
Yeah, it's like a piece of paper that helps you with your taxes and your finances. It's really so much more than that. I know another great example I can think about is myself included. Often when in the past, my husband would say things, and if he wasn't in a good mood, it would make me in a bad mood. I was totally taking that on, and I wanted to fix it, be like, what can I do? And I was kind of on like dancing
Yeah.
around trying to be like, how can I help you? What can I do to make it better? What can we talk about? Really,
Yeah.
he just needed his space, yet
Mm-hmm.
it impacts the mood of myself, and then that energy carries on to our kids. Yet
Exactly.
that was me. I'm a fixer. I'm a people pleaser. I want to make sure people, and I want people to like me. That's how it used to be. And I wanted him to be happy so that I could feel happy. Instead, I just needed to find my own inner happiness, my own self-love. And so that's where I kind of want to go now. Like, how do we get to that place where we can
Yeah.
truly understand all these things within us and then get them out? What do we do?
Absolutely. So now we're trying to find, you're saying happiness within ourselves. I think it's first defining, what does happiness look like? Not the status quo. Doesn't mean you're always in the best mood. And it doesn't mean that anything was wrong with your husband. He just needed his space. Like, we're individuals. Y'all got to understand you are an individual. Before you got married, you're going to be an individual when you get married. You're just working together like an interdependent type relationship, okay? You're depending on each other, so to speak. But you have to understand how to show up as your authentic self outside of your spouse. Like LB has a life outside of being married. I'm not just Derek's wife. I'm not just Lexi and Demi's mom. I am LB who loves to have fun. I love to do karaoke. I love to dance. I love to have a good time. So I have found, and I make sure, Beth, listen here, I make sure that I schedule time for LB because my life is my own. A lot of times what I see with moms and wives, they feel like that's their only identity. Oh, absolutely not. Yes, I'm a dance mom. I have a daughter that plays the guitar, but LB like to do stuff too. Oh, who's playing this weekend? I want to go see my favorite band. I'm going to make sure I'm filling my cup. And a lot of times that happens, Beth. If we look at ourselves as a glass, right, that's half full, we normally serve, or half empty, however you look at it. We serve our family, our communities, our jobs from that half full or half empty cup. If we fill it up to the brim of it and we eventually serve from it, what's going to happen? We're going to end up being half full, half empty. But what I encourage my women to do is to put a saucer under that glass and you pour into yourself and you keep pouring. And what's going to happen? The water's going to go to the saucer, right? You serve everybody from the overflow. That way you'll never be without. You have to remain full. Oh. And part of your happiness is doing things that make you happy outside of the identities that you've now taken on. So it's important that we fill our cups.
Well said. And I'm just going to remind anyone watching, feel free to pop any questions in the chat there. I think it's a huge piece is really like, it starts with us, like that identity piece. And like you said, we're so often wrapped up in being a mom that we forget about ourselves to the point that a lot of women feel guilty if they do something for themselves because they're like, as a mom, I should be doing this. And I put my kids, my husband before my needs. So it's hard to move out of that cycle and to really deal with that guilt. Like, why are you feeling so guilty? And often, again, back to childhood, maybe you felt guilty for doing things for yourself because whatever was happening in your life, you probably, if you're feeling guilty for doing things for yourself now, it probably meant you had a lot of guilt earlier in your life too. Yeah. So it's so important to get to the root of that. And whether that guilt came from, maybe you really liked, you were praised for doing things really well and you felt bad if you didn't do well at things like sports, art, music, your grades. Yes. And so much of your external world was like validation from the external world instead of internal, so that you could love yourself and learn how to love yourself and realize, you know what, I'm good even if I don't get good grades. A lot of times our guilt comes from that, and we just want to get external validation, but really it has to come from within. It's almost like your whole world could be taken apart, like taken away from you, and you're like, I'm going to be okay because you know what, I love myself and I'll figure this out, instead of feeling like the carpet's ripped out from underneath you. Yes. It's such a powerful place when you can really be like, I'm good with whatever happens.
It is. And you talked about being a people pleaser. That's another, I guess, sort of like trauma or pain point for some people, because you want that validation. And it's like, I was a people pleaser because I was put on a pedestal as a child. See, it always goes back to, how did we get here? Like, ladies, y'all taking notes? Hey, Charles. So that means the men are kind of sneaking in here too. Look, y'all, this is a meeting in the ladies' room, but if my men are here, y'all behave yourselves. But no, seriously, you have to really ask yourself, how did I get here? And do some self-evaluation, some self-work, some thought work as to why you think the way you think. Did your mom do that? Because I see that a lot of times, Beth, with my married women. They are pretty much images of their mom. And they were like, well, mommy didn't really have a good marriage in some cases. But yet you're following the same thing, not even realizing that those same behaviors have shown up in your own household, and now you're living married and miserable. And I always say this, Beth, that nobody gets married to get a divorce. Would you agree?
No. I would not. I don't know. It's one person in the world.
But ain't nobody signed up for this thing to be miserable either. So we have to find what's going to work by doing the work, right? Within ourselves, as a couple, as a marriage. So I think it's just important to really understand that the process of coming together and becoming one, that's a real process. And 99% of it has to deal with you dealing with you.
So true. So we have a great question here. My household resents me. It's not really a question, it's a statement, but I'm going to bring it up because I think it's so good.
Please.
It says, my household resents me when I do things to make me happy. Well, here we go. I think that's amazing. Congratulations for doing things for yourself. The thing is, it's on them. They feel resentful for whatever reason it is. And you can have those conversations like, why does it bother you that mommy or that I go out and see the girlfriends? And whatever that reason is, maybe they're used to having you around and this is just a new kind of you, like version 2.0, the authentic you that's coming out. And so it's okay to have a conversation, but don't feel guilty for that or take on that resentment, because you're taking care of yourself and I'm proud of you for that. So if they're resenting you, I'm not resenting you at all in this. I'm celebrating you. Go, girl.
Yes. And you know what? See, Beth said it politically correct. I'd be like, baby, that's honestly my response, because you're teaching people, you got to teach people how to treat you, including your spouse, including your children. And all you're doing is setting an example. Right now, they don't understand because, as Beth was saying, maybe they're just so used to you being there. But now you come to a point where I need me time. I need to love myself. I need to take care of myself, and they're seeing it. So now when they get older, they understand the importance of creating that lifestyle for themselves. So girl, big ups to you. They'll be all right. Okay. Keep doing you.
Perfect. And you know what? I think another good thing we should chat about is, how do you get to that place? Like that authentic you. And one thing I always tell, again, my wives is, you know what? You go back to a time where you felt unstoppable. You felt so confident. You had that awesome dress on. You were going out for the night, or maybe you're on stage singing, or you just won a big game. That time where you felt like nothing could knock you down. You go
Yes.
back to that time, and that was the authentic you. And sometimes we get so far away from that, especially as moms who are married. And like we said, we're
Yes.
just putting our needs off to the side, especially when our kids are so little. So we need to get back to that and see what happens is you start with that place. Like, I was that person and I can have it
Yes.
back. And so you kind of channel that. You feel that. Like, remember when you wore that? You felt so sexy, but whatever
Listen.
night you went out, you felt so good. Nobody was going to knock you down. You go back to that feeling, and that's the feeling. You'll remember that feeling, and that's where you want to be every single day.
It's so funny that you said that, because I actually have a boot camp called Be His It Girl Boot Camp. And the it girl is who you were before you met him. I'm helping you to get it back, because that's what happens, Beth. We get married and we become Mr. and Mrs. Married. Do you remember the episode? Come on, I mean, you remember on Sex and the City 2, the movie, when Carrie and
Yes.
Big, come on, Beth. When Carrie and Big, and she's like, I mean, I want it to have some sparkle. And he's just kind of laying on the couch, becoming that boring couple. No, there's something about you that got his attention. There's something about you that's it. And my whole goal in that boot camp, which the wait list is open now, just DM the word wait list and you get on that wait list, is to bring it back. Because when you show up in your authentic self, like Beth was saying, you're unstoppable. There's a confidence about you. When you walk in the room, people are like, who that girl? Like, who's she with? You know? So you really want to tap into what you already are, which is very easy to lose when you become mom. I'm a dance mom, but I ain't losing it. I'm not losing it no more, Beth. Hey, my baby girl's about to start guitar lessons. Life is going on with her. Life is going on with the other one. My husband needs me. I'm going to remain the it girl. And I'm going to remain his it girl by being very conscious of how I'm showing up.
Mm-hmm. So one other thing that sometimes comes up is they're like, I've never been that person. I've never felt good in my skin. I've never
Yes.
been there. And so what I say with these is, you know what, you go and picture yourself in 5 years when you've done all this work, you're happy in your marriage, you're giving
Yeah.
yourself that me time, you've taken on that hobby or whatever it is that you want, giving yourself that time to go to the gym. What does she feel like? And that's what you're going to harness in this moment. If you can't remember a time or you
Yeah.
weren't like that before you met your husband. So yeah, it's in us. It's totally in us, which is so empowering.
It is. And you know, I think one thing we have to always remember too, is that life is a journey. Like, a lot of us are looking for this destination. Like, happily ever after don't exist, y'all. Like, you're on happily ever after now. You're actually living the journey of happily ever after right now. And depending on how many years you've been married, Beth, how long have you been married?
13, I think.
Ooh,
I have to, yeah, 13. 13. Sorry, no, you're 12. We're 12. I'm 13 in March.
And I'm 13 in October. So we're 13. Okay, so look, we'll be turning 13. Hey, girl. So look, the goal is for us to be married for how long? For how long?
Till death do us part.
Till
Till
death
death do
will
us part.
probably get, well, till we're old and gray, the Notebook. My whole goal is to be on the gurney holding Derek's hand. But that is the goal. And so we have a long journey ahead of us of growing, of strengthening, of stretching who we are to become as we're moving on this path of life. And I think sometimes we just want to be there already. Now realizing that the journey is where the gems are. The journey is where you need to enjoy. Because once you reach that destination, it is like, what's next? So enjoy becoming this woman that you need to become. Whoever she is, awaken her. Why is she asleep? Why isn't she showing up? Why does Mrs. Controlling, I don't know why she keep control, you know, she keeps showing up there. Why does Mrs. Controlling keep showing up? Mrs. Nagging, because there's something in you that's lacking. Ooh, I wasn't even gonna say that.
Lacking. For sure, lacking, I say I don't feel like enough. I'm not loved. I don't think things are fair. I don't think things are right. I don't feel seen. I don't feel heard. It's all like, I don't get this. And often we look at our partners and be like, if you would only talk nicer to me, if you wouldn't give me that tone, if you wouldn't look at me like that, if you change, our marriage can be so much better. And I always say, you're 50% of the solution. And you may be not 50% of the problem. You may be 40% of the problem, but you're probably part of the problem too. Unless, of course, there's issues with maybe infidelity, addictions, abuse.
Correct.
Like those ones go off to the side. That's a different category.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of my good friends, her name is Faith Joyner. She's a therapist, and she would always say, if you're dealing with abuse, addictions, or adultery, that's a totally different, you know, relationship kind of like thing that we need to work on. We're talking to those who have healthy relationships, who know that you're married to Mr. Right, you're just finding your marriage going all wrong. So that doesn't
All
mean
wrong.
that you see what I'm saying? It can be fixed. These are fixable situations. And a lot of you are throwing in the towel prematurely. You ready to
Oh,
quit.
yeah. Yeah, and we don't want to go through divorce. Divorce is expensive, and women end up getting the brunt end of that too because wages, you don't get paid less, you take on the kids. It's just, oh, it's so, you don't want to go there. You married them for a reason, and it can be fixed. It's so possible. I know sometimes it's like, how did we even get here? And that's a mountain to climb. How are we ever going to get out of this hole? But I
Yes.
promise you, step by step, right? And it starts with you. And like you said, doing that inner work. So let's talk a little bit more about that inner work. Like, sure, I know that my mom treated me like this as a kid, or that my dad didn't love me the way I needed to be loved, or I was bullied as a kid, and that's the stuff I'm still holding on to. Now, how do we truly get rid of that? Because yes, we know who our authentic self is, but that version of me keeps
Yeah.
coming up. And I just want to get rid of her because I don't want to be that person that was bullied as a kid and have all these fears that people don't like me. How do we truly snip that one so that version of me can be cut and gone?
See, I think that starts with being able to recognize it, like you just did. If you're able to recognize that there's an issue and that you constantly see it coming up, now it's time to go to a coach. It's time to, that's why they come see you, Beth. That's why they go see a therapist. The help is here. Like if I could do it, if you could do it by yourself, you would have done it by now. You need to go ahead and get someone on your team to help you reach the goals, which is to become your authentic self, whatever that looks like for you. So if you need help with understanding why you keep thinking the way you think, then it's time to talk to somebody who can look on the outside, who's on the outside looking in and say, maybe this is why, or giving you different perspectives that you never considered because you're sitting in it. There's a quote, and I'm probably gonna mess it up, but what is it about the same level that the problem was created on can't be resolved on? You know how like most people try to, resolve their issues on the same level, but you need someone to come in and say, okay, now I see why you're possibly acting this way, something you never considered. So I always say enlist a coach, a therapist, understanding the difference between the two, a counselor, because the help is here. Like stop trying to figure this stuff out by yourself. You don't need to.
No, you don't need to do it on your own. In fact, I don't recommend you do it because it's so slow that way. And I think there's a place for both a counselor and a coach in your life. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the stuff that we do as a coach, like it's more like you get a coach, like almost depends on the coaching program, but sometimes you can get an intensive coaching program. My women, I'm in hands-on every week, every multiple times a week. Well, sometimes a therapist, you can only get in like once every month or once every 6 weeks. And all these problems have happened in that 4 weeks. And sometimes it just takes half the session to kind of catch up, get another solution. And it's 1 hour versus an intensive coaching program. You really like can nip things in the butt so much faster. Like 12 weeks of a coaching session can do wonders compared to 12 months of therapy. So, and I think the two go really well together because you can discuss some of the stuff that's going on in your coaching program and maybe bring some of those problems to your counselor too, to get some of those issues resolved with them.
Very true. Very true. I love that. I support that. I actually have an intensive that's going on right now. That's 12 weeks as well, Beth, you and I. Listen, baby. And it's so important because we meet weekly. I need my ladies to have the support that they need as they are becoming the wife they desire to be. They're married women right now. They're showing up as everything. Mrs. Negative Nancy, Mrs. Independent, and we are working through why they think the way they think, why they show up the way they show up, and let's change it so you can be married happily. Happily married. You know what I mean? I don't want you to be miserable. And then Charles helped me out. 1 second, Beth. Did you see that comment? Charles was breaking down.
Yeah, this is the one. Oh, I missed that. I have one that's above it. Here, I'll go to this one here and then we'll hop into Charles's. It says, I feel like I don't deserve to love myself most of the time. Like you don't deserve to love yourself. So, you know what, one thing that you can do, a lot of this, if you don't have a coach with you right now, is I'd grab a journal and I'd write down, like, I don't love myself because I did this in my past. I don't love myself because I think I look this way. I don't love myself, and get it all out. And you don't have to look at each line. You can do it with your eyes closed, tears streaming all over the paper, but just, I call it barf it out. Get that energy out of your body. And then eventually you're going to run out of reasons why you don't love yourself. And then you can change the energy by being like, how can I love myself better? How can I love myself better? So that's just one tip that you can start to do, because if you don't feel that way, we need to get to the root. And often I find that's a good way, because you can list all the reasons you don't love yourself, and then you can start to take action from there.
That's a great step. Great first step. Journaling is great. You just have to get it out. That's a lot of times we let stuff bottle up inside of us. and we don't know how to get it out. And it's like, by the time it comes out, oh, it's coming out in shouting matches. It's coming out and it's hitting below the belt, but you've allowed it to kind of fester. And, you know, now you don't even know where it's coming from. You're like, I'm just giving you all of it. My daddy left me when I was 5. You know, everything is coming out at one time. But when you sit and deal with those emotions, that's what it is. It's you against you. When you sit and really face yourself and deal with those emotions, now we can see, okay, let's get to the bottom of why you're so angry or why you have a temper. That part. Why are you triggered? What triggers you? Why? Where is it? So the question, why? How did you get here? I told y'all that's your question. Y'all write that down. How did we get here? And figure out what steps have been taken to get you to the place of where you are. And now it's, how do we get to where we want to be? That's why you got to bring in a coach. That's why you got to bring in a counselor, because now you want to go somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing, a lot of times these things are in our subconscious mind. We don't even realize what is in there, what beliefs and thoughts we have about ourselves. Like every memory is in there, which forms every thought, which forms every habit. Because often we're trying to avoid feeling that pain. So you know what? I'm going to yell at you because no, I don't want you to point out my flaws because I'm not flawed. I don't have flaws. I'm perfect. Even though we know we're not perfect, but part of us wants to be perfect because that's how we got praised sometimes as a kid. So you still have these looping things and these, you don't even know they're there. So when we can bring those to the forefront, and I have a hypnosis background, so I do these deep meditations with the women I work with. So we just pull that stuff out like this, getting to those roots, and it's magical stuff because you're like, I didn't know that I was still upset from when I was wearing a brown snowsuit in the 1980s and I was being made fun of. Like, it's incredible the stuff that comes up. So yeah, I agree. A coach, and we're not just pumping. Any, you know what? Find someone that you resonate with 100%. But yeah, tell me a little bit more. Do you have any final words? And then I want to hear about your wait list.
Oh my goodness. I mean, this is just awesome. I'm happy that this girl chat has been happening today. I see some men who are in here. Thank you, Charles. I see you. Some other ones are in here. But no, I think honestly, what my ladies need to understand, when I say you're miserable, define what that is. Like, when you really think about what misery looks like for you, it could just be you're tired of, you know, nagging. You could be tired of not having date nights. Maybe there's trust issues. There's, you know, y'all not being faithful. Who knows? Whatever that is, identify the misery that's happening, because you don't have to be Mr. and Mrs. Mary. You don't have to be that couple. If you want things to change, just know that you may be the catalyst of that change. You're going to have to figure out what's causing me misery, Mrs. Nagging, Mrs. Know-it-all, Mrs. Controlling. What's causing me misery? And now let me figure out what I need to do to change this. Because when I change the way I communicate with him, see, when I stopped nagging, Beth, my husband's feet stopped dragging. See, it was something that happened with the nagging. See, you got to understand that what you're doing is creating the situation that you have. And if you want to change it, then you just got to change the person who's in the situation.
It's so amazing. Like, you have the power. You have the power to change things. And what's so neat is when you start to do this work, you divorce Mrs. Nagging, you divorce Mrs. like judgment, you divorce Mrs. whatever it is. When you divorce that version of yourself and release her, what happens is, it doesn't happen, I don't find, like right away, but eventually your husband's like, who is this? And all of a sudden opens up more, becomes more secure in their marriage, feels more vulnerable to maybe share how they actually feel, because they know that Mrs. Nagging isn't going to get on his case. So your men don't have to do the work at the exact same time, because you're doing a work which is incredible, because you're really invested in your marriage, because you're working on yourself and you're going to show up as a different person. Your husband's going to be like, I remember her. I remember her.
That it girl.
Yep.
This is good stuff, Beth.
Okay, I think there's one more question here. I'm just going to read over this one. Why don't you tell me about your wait list while I read this?
Oh, you sure?
Yeah, go for it, because it's going to take me a little. It's a long one.
So for my ladies who are ready to bring back the it in their relationship, whatever it is, my Be His It Girl boot camp is a 30-day boot camp where I take my ladies on this journey of becoming what they've always been. Like, what they realize is that they just stopped being it. It's not that you're not his it girl. It's not that you're not the it girl. You stop being it. So my whole goal in 30 days is to bring it back. So we have such a good time, Beth. I'm talking about interactive sessions. I do mini lessons with my ladies throughout the month. We have an it girl community where we are supporting each other. We're cheering each other on as we are showing up as his it girl. We're getting his attention and we're keeping it. So if you want to know how to register for my first Be His It Girl boot camp of the year, just DM the word wait list and I will personally send you the link so that you can add your name and be a part. Registration opens on the 1st. So I'm really, really excited.
Ooh, I want to join. I'll be DMing you for sure.
Hey, come on, Jeff.
I just want to join in. I feel like we could have a great conversation there. Okay, here's the question. I can't trust my husband. How am I supposed to change that within me? He's the one who broke the trust. How do we answer that one?
I can't trust my husband. So what did he do to break your trust? What did he do to lose your trust? That's first. Have you brought this to his attention? Have you brought okay, I don't trust you because this is what happened. Okay. That's 2. 3, has he acknowledged the mistrust or whatever he's done to lose your trust? And is he willing to do whatever it takes? Because most of the time they want to keep their woman, depending on what happened. Are they willing to do whatever it takes to make it better? If they are, then what's the plan? So my whole thing is, a lot of women stay in relationships, Beth. They don't trust their men. But I'm like, well, then what you staying for? Like, you got to somehow make it within yourself that we're going to forgive and start working toward the healing in our relationship. If I'm going to stay, whatever the trust was, I don't know what it was, but if I'm going to stay, then we have to start working toward the healing. I have to know within myself that I'm healing, but he has to also show up and start doing things that you both have agreed to help restore the trust. So that's the first thing. Those are a few steps to.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that. You know what? I feel like another piece of that too is this is a journey for you to go on. And so much of that is to just start to trust yourself. So not to trust him, but trust yourself, because it may happen again, but we can't change your partner. And if it does happen again, you want to get to a place where you can trust yourself and trust your intuition. There may not be proof, but you can get to a place where, you know what, I can't do this anymore and I trust myself and this is maybe my exit out. And I don't want to go there, obviously, but sometimes you have to go with your intuition. So that's what I say, because a lot of times when there's infidelity, you don't trust anything. You're like, have I been lied to for years? I don't. And then you start getting all paranoid, you get obsessive thoughts, you see them on the phone, you see them coming home late at night, and you're like, it goes to the worst place. So you just got to get yourself grounded and be like, I feel this way and I trust myself and this is what I know. These are the facts, and I'm going to rely on those facts to guide me instead of getting obsessive thoughts about what if in my future. To stay really present. Absolutely.
That's good.
Yeah, well, I think there's one more here. How do you shake it and continue to grow instead of falling back into old habits? Okay, well, I think failure does happen. It does, and I don't want to call it failure. It's just, you know what, you're taking on obstacles that you've had trouble with probably for a really long time. And even if you try again and you're like, you know what, it didn't go the way I wanted to. We still fought. We didn't talk to each other for 2 days. You know what, you have that awareness now. So congratulate yourself, because you tried to get through that in a different way. And yes, it didn't go as well as you wanted. Go back to your journal, go back to whatever strategy you're using between maybe LB, myself, or whatever counselor you're using. Go back to that strategy, journal it out, figure out what is it that I still need to work on within myself, so that next time that opportunity comes, I call it an opportunity to engage in an argument, or, you know what, just to listen, sit back and be like, I'm not triggered in this situation. I'm going to hear my spouse out, and I'm going to see that my spouse for who he is. Maybe see some of the parts of him that are shadowy and coming out, like some of his maybe money insecurity, his own insecurity. And when you can see that in them and just realize he's not attacking me, then you can move through that opportunity again. But yeah, don't look at it as a failure and keep falling back. If you keep working on yourself, you'll get over that mountain. It's going to happen. And we're here to cheer you on when it does.
Yeah. And I guess I could just add, this is a journey. And marriage will mature you or it will expose the immaturity in you. And as you are growing on this journey, extend yourself grace as you are maturing. Like I know one thing, I used to be mad at my husband, see, back and tell all my business. I could be mad at him for one day, then it turned into 2 weeks. And I ain't talking to him. Silent treatment. LB don't do that no more. It might be 2 days. Baby.
But that's a win. That's a win. 2 days, it's not 2 weeks.
Huge win. Because I am a Gemini, Beth, and about 15 of them, you ain't got to talk to him. You ain't don't say nothing to him. He need to say something to you. I'm maturing. So now I'm like, you know what? You were wrong, LB. Play that situation back in your mind. You were wrong. Your tone was off. Now go apologize. See, I can check the married woman there. I can check her.
Yeah, I like that. So that answers that last one. I get stuck and don't know how to move forward. It's awareness. It's awareness of where you're being triggered, the emotion that's coming up, and then going and checking her, being like, goodbye. I don't
You
want
need a
you. But if
coach.
you come back, I forgive you for coming back because we've been together for a really long time. For us, it would be 12 years. We've been together with my Mrs. Nagging or whoever it is. And
Yeah.
I'm ready to say goodbye to you because I want to be Mrs. Loving, Mrs. Present. I love your
And
Mrs. I like how you name all your
that's
emotions
it.
Mrs.
That's
I'm going to,
it. Because it's a
but yeah,
difference.
it's just, it's forgiveness too. Yeah. And
That's
there's
it.
forgiveness in this too. You're
Yes.
human. You're on a journey. Forgive yourself, like for these little setbacks and having those interactions. And exhaustion, fatigue, overwhelm, often it's really difficult to move into that good version of ourselves because we step
Yes.
back into those older, shadowy versions of ourselves. So if you're really tired and having those interactions that go sideways, just realize that you're tired and maybe those aren't the best times to be talking about that stuff.
Just remember Aileen on The Help when she looked at Miss Healy and said, "Ain't you tired? Ain't you tired, Mrs. Married Woman? You'll be tired of her." I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. I got sick and tired of being Mrs. Sarcastic. So I got tired of being her, and I said something has to change within me. That's why I got
Yeah,
Tame Your Tongue Tuesday.
absolutely.
Yesterday was Tame Your Tongue Tuesday, Beth.
I love these. I love these days of the week. Do you have time for another question? There's another one that
Sure,
popped up.
sure.
Do you mind? I'll send it to you. Okay. I responded the wrong way. I know I need to apologize, but it's hard because he will respond in a way that hurts me over and over again. So I know sometimes you just want to give them this, like not even bring it up, right? So is it the power struggle that makes me feel this way? So let's talk about this one.
Yeah. Okay. So you want to apologize, but she fears that he's going to do what now?
Respond in a way that's just going to hurt her. So I can picture a situation maybe, and forgive me if this is wrong, but you want to say, I'm sorry, you know what, I didn't, oh, I'm trying to think of a good example. Maybe I'm sorry I spent an extra $300 at Costco, something simple like that. And what they're going to do is make it really hard and be like, well, you always do that stupid thing. When are you ever going to learn? And I could be making this up. I apologize to whoever's out there, but
No, no, no.
maybe
That's a
you're going to
good.
apologize for what you did. And they're going to be like,
Yeah.
why are you apologizing? You do this all the time. Why don't you just fix it? And then it just hurts. It hurts. It hurts. And is this a power struggle? Why she doesn't want to maybe say sorry?
Well,
Yeah.
my
What
whole
are your
thing is
thoughts?
too. I want to build up her confidence and her esteem because you're human, okay? And when you genuinely and sincerely go to your spouse to apologize for something you've done, his heart, depending on what your relationship is, it may take time, should be receptive of that. Now, it's okay if you go to him and say, you know what, I do apologize. Like, I want you to stand firm on what you believe. I apologize for doing whatever it is you did and how that may have made you feel. Okay? Whatever he's going to say, I need you to act like there's armor on you because you know what's coming. Don't let the words hit you in your heart. He's responding to whatever you did. Okay? He hasn't accepted the apology yet. He hasn't. Right now, you're building like the apologizing muscle, so to speak, if you want to call it that. You're learning to own your ish, as I say, which are your issues. And now, when things calm down, I think it's okay for you to call him out, Beth. I tell my wives to call him out in love. So here's the thing. I apologize for such and such. And one thing that hurts me is when you respond this way. That's going to take some time. You might need a coach to help you do that. But it's really recognizing that the whole goal is for you to own your ish and you want him to own his. But you got to understand that when you're standing firm in what you believe in and you're owning, like, I apologize, whatever he's saying is to what you did, not necessarily toward you.
Oh, that is beautifully put. It's never about you. Like their words are words. It's not to hurt you. Your partner loves you. They really do. You're on the same team, even though it doesn't feel like you're on the same team. It's about the issue. And so often it's like our heart is open and being stabbed over and over again, but
Yeah.
really it's not. It's not personal, yet we take it so personal. Oh, there's so much we could talk
I
about. You know
know.
what? I'm thinking we're gonna have to wrap it up at this point. We might have to do a
Part
2.0.
two.
So, yeah, part two. So anyway, for those of you out there, you can reach out to LB or myself. I also have a great 12-week program, or right off the hop, if you want, I have a 3 ways to save your marriage guide. You can grab that in my bio. It's a great way to start. So you know what, LB, I've loved this conversation. I'll post it and I'll get it to you as well so you can share it with your audience for those that didn't catch the live.
Thank you, Beth. I appreciate you. And don't forget, y'all DM me the word wait list so you can get on the wait list for my next boot camp.
Amazing. Absolutely. All right, LB, we'll talk later, okay?
Yes, you will. Peace, y'all.
All right, bye.